For the first time in more than 5.5 years, we finally tonight have a few new answers to a question that has loomed over Indiana and over the town of Delphi. Who killed Abby Williams and Libby Jervis?
From the end of the bridge to, you got to go through. Now, I believe that the bodies were found about
born from a family's grief and determination. In April of 2020, Army soldier Vanessa Guillen went missing while stationed at one of the largest military installations.
That little music in the background, it goes, "Don't be suspicious, don't be suspicious."
Right.
Knew about it or was there. He's as guilty as the person who committed.
Chilling details in the arrest of a suspected serial killer caught before he could strike again.
They dropped the ball, man. Like, they said he went AWOL, and that he was a deserter, and nobody went to look for him.
Today is not a day to celebrate, but the arrest of Richard M. Allen of Delphi on 2 counts of murder.
Like I said, we're going back. We were asked last time to kind of talk about the food, the grub truck video, and kind of give our perspective of it. The press release from the police department, it indicated that they're still trying to put pieces together from that night. Does that worry you at any point or at any bit that they're still trying to put those pieces together?
It's been over 5 weeks since little Kaylee Anthony vanished. Her mother, Casey, has been arrested for lying to police. She's being held without bail.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Fry, and you're listening to The Drunken Turkey Show, your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to The Drunk Turkey Show. I'm your host, Daniel J. Alongside with me, as usual, Jaime G. Big Blue is in and out of service. He'll be on right now here in a few minutes. Jaime, how you doing, though? I'm
doing good, man. It's funny that right now I'm backstage. His internet didn't go out at all. It was badass. And now he's like, I'm out.
Right. As soon as we hit the intro music, his internet dropped him. It's funny how technology works. I see him backstage. He's coming in right now. How's it going, Big Blue? How you doing?
Doing good. It kicked me out, so I went ahead and ran the Ethernet cord just to double make sure it doesn't do it again. So that's why it took me an extra second to jump back on.
No problem, man.
It's connected. So.
Awesome. I want to say thank you to a couple of channels that have had us on their show. Yesterday, it was the Criming Shame. I'm sorry. We were on their channel yesterday, me and Big Blue. They have a profiler and a handwriting expert amongst their panel. So we had a pretty good conversation. I highly recommend going and checking that out after this live. They will be joining us on Monday. As of right now, that's what it looks like. So they'll be coming on. We'll be having, I think it's a 3-person panel, and one of their panel members is a criminal profiler and a handwriting expert. So we're, excited to have them on and have their panel on to talk about Delphi and the Idaho 4 incident. And we also got some more news. We'll get that out of the way. This Friday, Publicly Buzzed will be joining us as well on a live, and we'll be doing a case discussion on the Idaho 4 and current topics, other cases that are going on. I know he's covering the Murdoch case that's going in trial right now. That's pretty interesting right now. I've been looking at it a little bit. It's we may cover it a little bit here in maybe in the next couple weeks. But the big one also is next week. They have agreed to come on. We're just circulating on a date, but we're going to have the Murder Sheet podcast on the show. We're probably looking at middle of next week. We'll be talking Delphi, talking about Richard Allen, Keegan Klein, Tony Klein, the usual suspects that are in that case, and talk about, the great work and and the great material that they've been able to uncover and bring out from the police department. They're the ones that brought out and put out there for everybody the transcript between the interrogation of Keegan Kline and the police department in 2019. I believe they also brought to attention the Ron Logan search warrant. And so we got a lot of questions for them, and hopefully you guys will be interested in watching. So I highly recommend that you guys hit that like and subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you don't miss it. But with that being said, I want to say thank you to all 327 people in the live chat already. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
I hope you guys are having a great night. Jaime, how was your last couple of days? I know you were out and about yesterday. How was your night?
It was great, man. We went to go see Newfound Glory there in San Antonio.
Really?
It was fun. It was interesting. You know what I mean? Like, it was acoustic, so it wasn't the normal concert that I usually go to. But I've never been to an acoustic concert. That was pretty badass.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to start a mosh pit?
I don't know if we could do that with acoustic, man. But yeah, I would have.
Just jump off of a chair, man, onto a table.
Throwing the chair in the crowd. Yeah, maybe.
Was it at the Majestic or at the Aztec?
It was at the Aztec.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was fun.
Did you notice anybody wearing Vans?
Dude, I'll be honest, man. I saw pretty much everybody that was there, was my age with Vans, including me.
That's funny, man. That's one thing that we had brought up, because there was a lot of the attention going towards some of the evidence that has been brought up in the Bryan Kohberger case, and or the lack thereof of evidence. And one thing that people are pointing out is the Vans. I think that's a pretty common shoe.
Definitely.
Just be nice with the San Antonio 210. What up? Big Blue, he's out there going crazy in the 210. You'll see him at all the rap shows, at all the hip hop stops. He'll come out, and we actually had a musician, local musician, D-Rock, come out on the show, and Big Blue has come out on their music video. Go find him. What song was it, Big Blue, that you came out in? Was it 5 Shots?
Yeah, 5 Shots.
5 Shots by D-Rock. Go check it out. You'll see Big Blue. He's getting crazy in the music video. It was a good time. It looked like it was a good time. Me and Jaime weren't invited, but Big Blue was.
Y'all were invited. Y'all were busy.
Yeah. But unfortunately, I don't live in San Antonio, so it was kind of hard, to set up that meeting. You know what I mean? So,
right.
Next time, D-Rock. Next time.
No better song for Big Blue than 5 Shots. It would be 5 Shots, because Big Blue has been been known to take several shots on the live and off the live. And so,
that's what I'm drinking tonight too, guys. So that's
what are you drinking, Blue?
Tonight it's a Malibu with a cranberry agua fresca, and then I put some frozen strawberries, peaches, and pineapples inside the cup.
Hey, for our demographic, can you say that slowly, Blue?
It's cranberry.
No, the Spanish words.
Agua fresca.
No, you're supposed to. There's one thing there's been a common theme in the live chat here of recently is there's been a lot of attention going towards Big Blue. A lot of the females saying they love Big Blue, and so for the ladies, Blue, please say that slowly and provocatively in Spanish.
Whisper it.
I don't know if I can, but let's go.
You said it to me earlier.
Agua fresca.
You sounded tired, bro. All right. That's enough.
He needs a Red Bull.
He needs a Red Bull.
I got a Monster. The Monster might be coming up next with I don't know, throw some gin in it or something.
And then he'll get the party started. All right, so we got a little bit of news here and there. One thing that we haven't talked about, because we've been a little bit preoccupied here with daily life and whatnot, is the Bryan Kohberger's defense team received some documents as far as their discovery goes. There's been a lot of question marks about this discovery, whether or not there was a co-defendant or a person, a CI involved in this case. I've kind of read through it. Everything kind of seems like it's being a coverall. You know, they're asking for everything just so that the prosecution has to send everything. And it seems like they sent everything all in all. And, you know, we'll go through what evidence we think they have. And, you know, does it add up? Does it match up? We'll talk about Delphi a little bit, and then we'll be taking your guys' phone calls. So stay tuned. All right. So the first thing that we'll talk about here is Bryan Kohberger. So the defense received 995 pages, one audio video. I'm guessing that's a one audio video file. There's probably more than just one piece of audio video that's on that file. I'm assuming there's quite a bit of information on that file, and 1,865 photos. Are you guys, you know, we also saw what was brought in from the search from Bryan Kohberger's home or apartment. You know, they had a few strands of hair. One of them was a dog hair, a couple of stains on his bed and pillow that they picked up. There was also the cell phone tower, the Amazon stick. I mean, a few other things maybe. I'll go find them here in a few minutes. Are you guys at all concerned by the, or are you all impressed by the amount of discovery that was sent over? We'll start off with you, Jaime. What do you think about 95 pages, one audio video file, and 1,865 photos?
It's hard to tell. I mean, it could actually be just it could pertain to the trial itself, but sometimes it could not. It could just be context sometimes, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, but I mean, I'm sure there's more. There should be a lot of evidence and discovery, you know what I mean?
In my opinion, this is what they have to show the court, right? So, because this is what the prosecution has to give the defense all the evidence that they're going to use against Bryan Kohberger. That way he can try to build up a defense against it, right? And so this is basically the evidence that they're using. Now, is there more than this? Possibly, probably more than likely, but it might not be stuff that they're bringing out that is worth anything. For instance, they may have an interview with, you know, a roommate's friend who said that, you know, they weren't aware of anything, they didn't know anything, and end up being a nowhere lead, so to speak. No information out of it. They're not going to turn over those notes or that video file, right? It's only going to be the ones that they're going to use. Now, if there's evidence out there that could prove that Bryan Kohberger's innocent, then the defense or the prosecution has to hand that over. If not, then it's called Brady. I'm not a lawyer, but so I don't remember the exact Brady versus who, but Brady's basically, it was a court ruling where the prosecution had evidence that would have proven their the defendant, whose last name was Brady, that he was innocent. They had evidence to prove he was innocent. They didn't turn it over. They secluded and hid that information. And so now that is a rule. So if the defense or the prosecution has any evidence that could say or could point to the innocence of Bryan Kohberger, that has to be turned over as well. So that would be in here as well if there was any of that. And so this is the evidence they have that they plan on using against Bryan Kohberger. Big Blue, what do you think? Do you think it's a lot? Do you think it's enough? Do you think it's not enough?
I mean, it's quite a bit of information, especially like the photos. I want to see if they show more than just one footprint. Maybe they're photos of his apartment. Maybe he took a souvenir. Maybe he took some stuff home after the murder and, you know, the unalivings. So we'll see. I really think that there's quite a few pages that we have to go through to see what they exactly have.
Right. I mean, I honestly think that they have put out everything that they have up to the point where the searches have happened. So if we look at the probable cause affidavit, we look at the airmail article referencing this situation and what the police have and how they acquired the evidence needed to arrest Kohberger. I think everything is there. You know, I honestly don't think they're hiding or holding anything close to the chest or to the vest when it comes to everything leading up to the arrest of Kohberger. Now, afterwards, you have the vehicle search. You have the search on the apartment complex, his apartment. Those things are, which did result in a cell phone. I mean, not a cell phone, on a laptop tower or computer tower, Amazon stick, the hairs and the stains that were reddish. Now, if something of that nature, something comes out of those searches, that's like a smoking gun, so to speak, then that's the possibility. But I think up until that point, they have released all the information that they have for the most part. I think that pertains to the case. Now, the only thing I think that they may not be putting out there is whether or not he was associated or was an intern or worked with one of the police departments, whether it was Pullman or Moscow. What do you think, Jaime? Do you think that that information would be in this probable cause affidavit?
It should be, man.
Right.
Sorry, I'm messing with my phone. I mean, my mic and my computer.
Got you.
But yeah, I do. It should be, but I don't know if they have to share everything with the defense, right?
Everything that they're going to, everything that the defense asks for that they have. So, for instance, if let's just say they had a co-defendant or a CI, somebody, an informant, and the prosecution or the defense didn't ask for the information, then they don't have to give it up. So that's why they ask for so much, because they have to cover everything. And so, I think they've laid it out pretty adequate. Do you think that? So here's my thing. I don't think that the only thing that the police department probably could be trying to keep away from this investigation or try to prove this investigation without this part of the evidence is maybe perhaps his employment, or not employment, but his duties at all, any, as an intern with either police department. I think that's the biggest question. I think when they word things like on the search warrant, when they sealed it, that it could hinder possibly the law enforcement. I felt that might be what they were referring to. It appears that they didn't find anything at his office. There's nothing out there as of yet on the car, I'm sorry. And so I'll say this. They took thousands of pictures at that house, in my opinion. They had to have. When it comes to the documents and the pages, you had a 19-page PCA. That would be in there. The arrest report would be even more detailed. That would be in there. You would have supplementary reports from officers that were on scene. That would be in there. There'd be a lot of reports about the same stuff. So me seeing 995 pages doesn't seem like a lot. The audio video, I would assume they have the vehicle parking, going back and forth and trying to park. Yeah. And I would assume that they would have some interviews recorded, with Dylan or Bethany or whoever, witnesses that they felt could be associated. I feel like it's a little bit low, but just to kind of run down my thoughts. Well, Blue, what are your thoughts? How do you think they came to Bryan Kohberger?
I think it's two things. I think it's because what they put out is that they found the car that matched the description, and then he matched the description of the one that Dylan gave, the bushy eyebrows. And then after a while, when they got the DNA back, they couldn't match the DNA to the guy's DNA from the dad. So I think that's what they went off. That he had the build of the guy that she saw, and he drove a car that they were looking for, like the Elantra.
So you see, I have a little bit of an issue with it, and I wonder if, because you can't just pull somebody's phone records. Now, the description that they had of the actor from Dylan, based on what they say Dylan has said, right?
Yeah.
Is a man of average height and weight with bushy eyebrows. Like, I don't think that's enough to get a warrant. You got a guy who, all right, you have a guy that matches the height and weight, because this is all they had at that time, right? They didn't have the DNA connection to the sheath. And so at the time, they had the videos of the white Elantra. So you have a guy matching the height and weight of an average person, male, that drives a white Elantra. I don't think that's enough to go in there and violate, anybody's rights, the Fourth Amendment rights of illegal search and seizure, to search his cell phone records.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I think it would take some time to convince a judge. So they might have had a little bit more information. Like maybe that by then they would have had some surveillance camera footage that maybe had a plate number, and that was enough to at least try to get some surveillance on him to track the car and see what he would do.
But if they had a plate number, they would have had enough to bring him in, talk to him. They would have had him.
Yeah,
they wouldn't have had to go ask WSU police to, search their database, and they wouldn't have had to have that officer go send out another officer to go find Bryan Kohberger's vehicle to run it. Those things wouldn't have needed to be done, in my opinion. And I think that would have been pretty strong and damning evidence that would have been on the probable cause affidavit. Prosecutors want to win this case, right? This isn't like, I'm going to hold my aces just in case we go to trial. This is more like, I'm going to throw 5 aces down to get this person to say that, to give up on 3 of them, so to speak, and plea out. And so I don't think they have a license plate. In my opinion, they did that. They had the description of the vehicle. They gave that description to the Washington Police Department, Pullman Police Department. They sent a WSU officer out there after looking through the vehicles in their registry of cars that matched that description that were registered to be at the college. Found Bryan, saw that it was Pennsylvania license plate. Probably knew that they didn't have to have front license plates. And so that was probably something that they were aware of, that the vehicle they were looking for didn't have a front license plate. And so they went based off of that, found the car, gave the information to the Moscow Police Department. They looked at his picture and saw that he had bushy eyebrows, matched the height and weight. They were able to then get a search warrant based off of that and find out that he pinged around the house. And so they followed him until they were able to get something to get DNA off of so that they can put him onto the sheath. And I think that's what they did pretty much step for step, when you just trim all the fat out. You know what I mean? And so,
I think, I'm pretty sure at the college town there's more cameras everywhere. Most of the time around the colleges there is. I know. So I'm pretty sure they got something more than just a description of him, and they probably did We'll see in those photos. I mean, the thing is, I don't know if they're ever open it to the public to see what the photos are. Like most cases, they won't, unless like they do a special report later and they do submit some photos for the reports.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I think they sent them all the photos that they have. You know, my concern is like, let's just say nothing comes out of the Elantra, nothing comes out of the, those hairs that are in his room. And then I think that's when we have a problem with this case. I don't think they got the wrong guy. I think Bryan is the right guy. But is there enough evidence that, was it 12 jurors are going to say that there's no reasonable doubt here?
Yeah. You only need one juror to not make that assumption, you know what I mean?
Right. Right. And so, I think this was a guy who was following some footsteps of some notorious men. And, I think that there's a little bit of a pattern when we've talked to about when you looked at the young lady that came out on our show, who was a friend of Kohberger, up until the point where he started using heavy drugs. She has pictures of when she was around with Kohberger, and she kind of resembled a little bit of Kaylee. You look at the girl who talked about Kohberger, saying birthing hips to. She showed pictures of what she looked like around the time that she would have been when she went on that date. And she kind of resembled Kaylee to a certain extent, height, weight, hair color, things of that nature. It kind of follows a pattern here. But there's a difference between what you know and what you can prove. And I'm a little bit concerned in that aspect of it. What do you guys think? Oh, and thank you for the beanie, the compliment on the beanie. If you guys are interested, hit us up on our email. We actually have a website that we're working on so that we can get these out. Yeah, they're pretty warm. I like them.
Yeah, like you said, that they did have a resemblance to her, right? To the victims.
Yeah. Some of the people that he's associated, or some of the women that he's associated with, kind of did look alike. Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, had similar characteristics. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and I mean that's a kind of a common trait with people that do that kind of crime, like serial killers, I guess you can see.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know if he was one but he does. It looks like he did have the kind of a tendency of that.
Yeah, I would say so. And then there was another female that had came out saying that when they were like in 6th grade, he would write her love letters or something like that. And so I'm not sure what information you can gather from somebody in 6th grade, but
yeah, that time his mind was still pretty innocent.
Yeah. I don't remember Blue being innocent in 6th grade, but all right. That was around the time that we met Blue. It was about 6th grade. And so the birthing hip thing came from Amber Heard, Beth Joe said. Maybe. I mean, it's also from a movie called Dark Shadows. I'd actually seen it a few years ago. And so when the comment came out about birthing hips, I was like, man, I've heard somebody say something like that before. Where have I heard that before? And so I looked up the old interweb, got on the old Google, and typed in birthing hips quote, and sure enough, Dark Shadows came up, and I was like, you know what? I remember it. It was, at the time, it was funny. I guess now that somebody else says the same words, and yeah, it has a different meaning, right? What about you, Jaime? What do you think about the? Wait a minute, hold on. Somebody says they may have seen me. May have seen you a few months ago on a flight to Pittsburgh from North Carolina.
That probably was you.
That was me. Did I go to Charlotte? I don't went to Pittsburgh. I went to Pittsburgh in January. It was January 8th. That's when I went to Pittsburgh. So yeah. You probably did see me. I was out there with my father. We went to a football game, the last game of the season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so before we get on to the phone calls, I wanted to talk about this real quick. Prosecutors had to file arguing that Richard Allen should not receive bond. Apparently, Richard Allen, this is at the Delphi case, had his defense team had inquired about having him get a bond or be released due to a lack of evidence. And these guys here just came back with a response saying that the crime of M is not bailable in the state, proves by preponderance of the evidence that the proof is evident and the presumption strong that the defendant convicted the offense. And so basically what they're saying is that the state believes that the evidence shows culpability of the actual crime of M, for which bail may be wholly denied. The state believes the evidence shows the preponderance of evidence that the defendant committed the crime. And so they're saying that there's enough evidence there that says at least 51% evidence there that says that he is that he did commit the crime, and so that he should not be getting bail. We've broke down the timeline on the Richard Allen case. We have a pretty good, strong idea of that case. Do you guys think that he is has enough to get out? Maybe he should get a bond. Do you think that there's not enough evidence there against him? We'll start off with you, Big Blue.
No, I think there's enough evidence to charge him. I mean, the left shelf casing at the scene is one big piece of evidence that they found, and I don't know if he's actually talked and see if he tried to do a plea deal to reduce his charge, but just by him saying that he was there, admitting that he was at the park, and then the timelines that we put together, to me, it's him 100%. And by him saying that he was standing on a 70-foot bridge to observe the fish, I mean, at that height, he'd be looking at minnows. So I think he was lying at that part.
Oh, yeah. And what about you, Jaime? What do you think? Do you think that there's enough evidence there to keep him without bond?
And they have 5 years to come up with evidence. I'm hoping they do. Just by the timeline that we broke down, it seems to point in that direction that he's the one. But it all depends on what kind of evidence they have against him. They're all complete evidence. I know we have details of some of the evidence, but not the timeline evidence. But I haven't heard anything about like solid evidence.
I agree. There is a lack of solid evidence, but the timeline does kind of nail him, so to speak. And we'll go through it just a tad bit, and then we'll open up the phone lines. We had a video that we showed on here, somebody walking this entire trail, right? And it took them about 13 minutes to get from one end to where the Monhan High Bridge is. And we used that as a about an average somebody. He was walking with some purpose as well. He did stop a couple of times, so I think we averaged it out to like 12:30 if somebody was walking with purpose. We were able to basically, and I don't have it in front of me, but these points here are different witnesses that saw him. There was 3 juveniles that took a picture of themselves here at 126. It would have taken them probably until about 1:30 to get to this area where they saw, or 1:30, I think it was like 1:35 or something like that, where they saw Richard Allen walking in. Richard Allen describes these 3 witnesses as he's entering the trail. And so that puts a time at where he entered the trail, which would be sometime after 1:26 a.m., where these girls were taking a picture before they came out this direction. Now, Richard Allen is seen on this camera out here at the Hoosier Howard store at about 1:30 or 1:26, also heading towards the where he said he was going to park. He walks down the trail, says that he goes straight to the bridge, looks down at some fish. At that point, there's another witness that enters the trail and walks up, sees Richard Allen turns around, walks back, sees Libby and Abby pass and walk behind them towards the high bridge. And so based on our math, and we have it out there, it would have been almost impossible for Richard Allen to have walked this entire trail, gotten off the trail before that lady who saw him on the trail and Libby and Abby walking back. It would have been almost impossible for him to get to those different spots. So based on that, it really does kind of point the finger in his direction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as the bullet or the unspent round that was found between the bodies, and an explanation to that, just to play devil's advocate, would be it could have been Richard Allen's. I mean, we saw what he was dressed in. He could have had an unspent round or rounds in his pocket, unknowingly. And he talks about pulling out his phone and checking stock trades or something of that nature. It's possible that when he pulled out his phone, maybe perhaps he had an unspent round in his pocket. It fell out shortly after. Libby and Abby pass by, see the unspent round, pick it up, put it on their pocket. And now it's in their possession. And so there's an explanation for it that somebody can come up with that would be reasonable as to why they have it. But when you add that plus the timeline, it really does make it difficult for it not to have been him involved, in my opinion. What do you guys think? We'll start off with you, Jaime.
I don't know, man. That if it comes back that bullet that was found near the bodies is actually Richard Allen's handgun.
Yeah.
It's gonna be pretty solid evidence against him. You know what I mean?
It did come back already that it is, because they sent it through forensics, and it shows the imprint of where his gun would have scratched it when he would have cocked the gun back to spend it out. And your gun it's like a fingerprint. It makes a certain mark on every bullet.
But I don't know if it's the same with when you fire a bullet. The bullet itself. I know it leaves the tracks, right? Because it has a spiral track on the barrel tracks. I don't know if it's the same with extracts when it extracts. I don't know if that's.
Apparently it is.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what the prosecution is saying, that there is a unique mark left on the round when it is extracted from the weapon. Now, one way that there's several ways that it could have been extracted and not found. Apparently, there was a lot of leaves on the ground, things of that nature. Also, the way it could have gotten extracted out was a couple of ways. First one, a lot of people may think of is out of fear, or trying to control somebody or manipulate someone with fear by pulling the slide back, having it make the noise, and it would eject around. And the other way is that if he had his weapon pulled and there was a fight and he didn't want to shoot it, make the noise, and during the commission of that struggle, it was slid back and ejected out. Now, there would probably be an impression on the skin of one of the girls, whoever would have been fighting back, on their hands from the slide going back and sliding forward. It's very easy to get your hands or your fingers caught into that. And so I would assume that if it was a struggle in that situation, that there would be some sign of it. And I think that in the Ron Logan search warrant, it spoke, and I mean, maybe even in the probable cause affidavit, that neither girls showed signs of struggle or fight or defensive wounds. So that leads me to believe that it was probably out of them running, perhaps, and him trying to use it as a fear tactic. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that sounds very plausible, using it as intimidation. Because like even if the ejected bullet, my problem is that wouldn't the same gun almost all the time make the same markings, especially if it's the same brand or whatever? It's all manufactured the same.
I would assume so. I'm assuming. See, I'm not a weapons specialist.
Mm-hmm.
I did contact a buddy of mine who's an officer in a nearby city, and asked him if he can get me in touch with their weapons specialist, and I'm waiting for their response to get somebody of that nature on the show, and in that capacity. But I haven't found a lot of cases where that was used as evidence. I did a search. In fact, let's do a Google search now. Cases.
I want to say that the specialist did say that each gun would have its own specific markings.
Yeah, if they're fired.
Oh no, for the cocking, like when you eject the round out.
But even at that, like a spent round that goes through a barrel has a really super unique marking, barrel tracks. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes down to an ejection, it can also have markings because it's been stepped over, over rocks or whatever. It can actually have markings like that. So I will believe that a spent bullet will be more evident, more of a solid evidence instead of an ejected bullet.
Right. Yeah. Right. No, I get what you're saying. I don't understand why it would be significantly different. Like if you had the same make and model of weapon, we'll get more into that. I see extracted marks on spent rounds, not much on non-spent rounds. So, all righty, guys. Well, we're going to be opening up the phone lines. If you guys want to call in, give us a call. In fact, let me put this also in the StreamYard real quick. The phone number is 726-202-4054. Give us a call. You can talk about Delphi. You can talk about the Idaho 4, Alec Baldwin, whatever you guys want to talk about. Just keep it PG-13, and we hope that keep it relevant to that information.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they have enough evidence. I think they have. Do you think there's more evidence for Richard Allen than there is for Bryan Kohberger? We'll start off with you, Jaime. What do you think? We got a call first.
Yes, I'm just saying yes.
We got our first call coming in. How's it going? Welcome to the Drunk Turkey Show. This is Daniel. Who are we speaking with?
Hi, Daniel. My name's Joey. I'm in New York.
Nice, Joe. Nice to meet you. How you doing?
Guys? Good. I love your show. I'm totally addicted to your show, just so you know. That's great.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah. It's the vibe. You guys just have a vibe about the show. So the information's spectacular, but the vibe, it's like the show's setup is like you feel like you're hanging out with you guys while you're learning. So it's really cool. Really good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So two things. One is you had brought up the Brady law. So I just wanted to comment maybe in a little bit of a humorous way. It reminded me of this whole Cape Fear situation, the movie Cape Fear, where the defense attorney withheld very important information that ended up getting the Max Cady character locked up for 13 years. And then he wanted to vent his spleen on the attorney when he got out. And I was just thinking, like, in a weird way, the situation with this attorney and this potential conflict of interest when it comes to the sentence, the conflict is when it comes to sentencing, the penalty phase is when she could potentially cross-examine a past client of hers. And it just reminded me that it opens up the door of a situation where Kohberger could potentially successfully appeal the case based on that. I'm not certain. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm just saying it lends for another, more tally for a great movie down the line.
Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah, but the most important reason I called you guys, and I want to hear what you guys have to say, is I agree early on you were talking about the whole thing about reasonable doubt, and I think they definitely got the right guy. I definitely think Kohberger is the culprit of this terrible crime. But I think he goofed in more ways than he thought he would have, as potentially organized and smart, quote unquote, that he is.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that there's all of this time now before the first hearing, preliminary hearing, I do think that he has enough time to sit in that cell, as obsessive compulsive as he is, and really come up with some very strong reasonable doubt options. Yeah, I think we all have to really, you guys have to keep doing what you're doing, keeping this case alive, because the possibility of this guy getting off, even with DNA on that sheath, is very high, because of the amount of time that house was open before the police came. There's so much you can, a good defense attorney can claim, could bring in all kinds of stuff, that house was an open door policy. People were in and out of there all the time. It was a party house. There's so much potential for reasonable doubt that a couple of 2 or 3 bright minds could really convince a jury to say, listen, are we going to put this guy away for good without solid, concrete evidence that this guy did it? I don't think we can do this, because we just don't have, if that whole glove don't fit, you got to acquit thing. Casey Anthony's case, unfortunately had a corpse, had the body of a child, and she still got off. This is a sheath that has some DNA on a clip of a party house that we have video body camera evidence, where cops were going there all the time telling you guys need to chill out, the party's going hard. So I'm concerned. I want you guys to continue to keep this case alive, because there's many months of this attorney and this client coming up. All they got to do is, the burden's on the state, man. The burden of it. So the burden of proof. All they got to do is create enough reasonable doubt, and the preliminary case is where they can say, all right, we don't have it. We can't press charges. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I love you guys' show, and thank you for doing this show. Thank you.
Oh, we appreciate that, Joe. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you. What do you think? Do you think that the time frame in which Bryan has between preliminary hearings is that a valid point? It's going to be a
Yeah, no, I definitely do, man. I mean, he's gonna come up with something. He has to.
No, I agree.
Like you said, there's hundreds at this point, hundreds of people going through that house, including. I mean, the law enforcement wasn't too keen about it too. So,
I mean, the fact also is that there was a lot of time between the incident and the person seeing somebody and the 911 call came out.
Yep.
Now, regardless of whatever happened or why it happened, right? And the defense is going to harp on that as potentially there's a reason for it. And I think that we may see that attack from Bryan Kohberger. They're going to attack the victims, the witnesses. They're going to try to attack their credibility, the credibility of everybody that's involved. That is what their defense will probably be. And so, yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think that him waiving his right for a speedy preliminary hearing to allow a couple of different things to happen. Right now, this is a very high profile case. Everybody's eyes and ears are on it. And, I think they're hoping that maybe perhaps voices do slow down or aren't as loud, and that perhaps, maybe they'll get an advantage from waiting that long. We are opening the phone lines up again. I know I saw a missed call coming in, but we want to talk a little bit briefly about the calls between calls. Just as a friendly reminder, On the phone calls, you can only hear myself, Big Blue, and Jaime. You won't be able to hear them. So if you have a question for those guys, I'll have to relay it and then repeat it back. But the format that we'll be using is you'll ask your question or your comment, and then after we hear you out, then we'll let you go, and then we'll discuss on that and then move on to the next call. So phone lines are open. So when it comes to Bryan, all right, so one thing that we had said before we got the last call was, and here comes the other one. All right, here we go. Welcome to the Drunk Turkey Show. I'm Daniel J. You're live on air. Who am I speaking with?
Oh, hi, Daniel. Thank you so much for your show.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing. I wrote an email to you, I believe it was last week, when you talk about Kim, the mother, and he has 2 kids in both universities, right? That really, really inspired me. And so that's why I wrote email to you. Bryan got into this PhD program. Actually, it's the professor from San Jose State recommended him to there.
Really? I didn't know that.
He was recommended by this professor because he was taking an online course, and then this professor recommended him to a PhD program. I think they got the right guy, Bryan, and that. But I'm still concerned there's somebody else. Yeah, because I had a court working experience, for one person, unless he had a similar murder before. The first murder, killing 4 young college students, is kind of difficult. I still feel there's somebody else. The most important thing is about the motive. The connection between this house is Bryan.
Right.
What I thought is after I hear Kim's, not testimony, like her share, I thought about what about Bryan didn't get rid of a drug when he went to Washington State University. Probably he was looking for a new drug. Then he found out this house.
Right. I mean,
drug could be a link between him and this house.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, this house has been what's the word I'm looking for? Kim mentioned the fact that this was a party house. I think there's no doubt that this was a party house. You had the footage of the police department going over there and checking the house out and things of that nature.
Actually, I think police department know what's going on in this house. They just went there warning a couple times, but they didn't want to do something big because it's going to ruin the owner's reputation. They got good tax from this house, right? They know what's going on, but they didn't take the action. And look at the 2 victims' parents, right? Both related with the drug crime.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure the defense is going to bring that up.
Yeah, and also when I heard after I heard her share it, I called one of the previous coworker because I used to work in a drug rehab center. I called the pastor over there. I asked him. I said, if Bryan, this kind of situation, he used to take a heroin for 2 years when he was in college, in high school, and now this house, for example, is we call a party house or it's a drug house. And I asked him, do you think he really hid this house because he used to hurt by the drugs, or he didn't get rid of that drug? The pastor, because he used to take drug for long time, but God helped him to get rid of the drug. Now he's working for Operation Down, and it's been 20 years. He said, Kathy, this guy didn't get rid of drug. They won't hit it. He said, look at my experience. He said, 20 years ago, I get rid of the drug. After that, I will never go to anywhere, meet anyone related with drugs.
Right.
But if someone didn't get rid of that, looking for drug, then get a connection with this house. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a possibility. I think that, this part, if you think that this house had never had a drug in it, given the parties that have gone on, and, you didn't think that maybe somebody could have brought something into the house as a party favor or whatever, or even up to the part where maybe perhaps somebody is dealing or selling. Those things are possible.
Yeah, it's a selling.
Right.
Definitely, there's a selling issue, and there's another approved is Dylan.
Right.
He's I'm an immigrant from another country, but she's born here. She's a college student. The common sense you need to call 911 right away. But
Right.
that long time she didn't call. Then definitely clean up the house and remove something not good for her, and call other people coming in the house. That's it's not imagination. This has happened before.
Right. Right.
So I mean, she is a victim, but something as a citizen, you have responsibility to
Right.
call 911 to protect other people, to protect the scene.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that moment is kind of selfish, yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, thank you so much, and really appreciate all you have done. Keep going. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate
God
your
bless
phone
you.
call.
Bye.
God bless you as well. Thank you so much. So what do you guys think about that? Do you think that the connection was drugs? I know a lot of people bring that up, especially because we were talking about Kim, and Kim brought up that there was potentially a connection there with drugs. What do you think? Do you think there's a possibility there, Jaime?
It can go either way. I honestly think that if this was a drug house or a trap house or whatever, I believe it was before they got there. And that's why everybody knows it. Like maybe there's some of the past residents that were there were using it for that. But I don't feel like it was a trap or a drug house at that point. You know what I mean? I think it was just known for that for their past residents, but that's it.
I think that outside of recreational use, I don't see the evidence there that it was to that extent. But you also got to realize that this sorority that these girls were a part of was on probation at the time for hazing, alcohol, or drugs. And so two things can be right also at the same time, right? I mean, two things can be right at the same time. They could have had some kind of narcotics in that house. They could have called their sorority in the morning because, they didn't know the extent of what had occurred that night. And they had narcotics in the house that they wanted to get rid of, maybe just recreational use, and it not be involved or reason why Bryan Kohberger targeted the house. He could have targeted the house just because of, like we mentioned before, the familiarity with or the resemblance from Kaylee and some of the people or some of the women that Bryan Kohberger had associated with or attempt to talk with or went on a date with. And so I see here, Doug says, I think he picked it because of the location, the house. My only issue with that is like, he'd only been in the area for a couple months. How did he choose that location over others? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a clear target there. I think that it was perhaps, it sounds like he DM'd at least one of the victims, right? Whether that message was seen or received or whatever the case may be, those messages were sent out. And so he had at least an interest in one of the victims prior to the incident.
Yeah.
Right. And so that tends to make me believe that it was probably a romantic interest. What do you think?
Yeah. I believe that he had some attraction to the victim. And,
Right.
I feel like I don't know if it was planned, to tell you the truth. I don't know how long, if he did plan it or not. But the location if it was planned, I don't know if that was the best location to do this kind of crime, especially between houses and another apartment complex, right?
Right.
I'm just surprised that like the neighbors or the neighbors on the east oh the house didn't hear anything, or even the complex, the apartment complex didn't hear.
Right. I think it was planned out to an extreme level, to the point where he had made a doctor's appointment the week after. I feel that he did it the weekend that he did it because he wanted to go to work/school the following day and the following week. And, had he done it the following weekend, I think Thanksgiving break was upon, and a lot of folks were going to be off. And so, he maintained the doctor's appointments. He maintained the school. He wanted to be seen. He wanted to have that, in my opinion, he knows what to look for as far as the red flags when it comes to people that have been in, that are probably guilty of a crime, right? You're looking at somebody involving themselves back into the scene, somebody who returns back to the scene, involves themselves, into the case, returns back to the scene, changes, what they're doing, their appearance, things of that nature, changes their schedule. And so I think he planned this to be that weekend, and he planned certain things around so that way they would give some maybe sense of reasonable doubt in case he did get caught. Because he also changed his he did this at a time when his license plates were changing as well. But I think that there's a lot to it. I think he did do it. The only thing that tells me that there's a possibility of a second person is right here. Is when he's coming from right here on the 700 block of Indian Hills Drive. Why is he in this neighborhood? And when he's seen here, which it could have been anywhere from this area all the way down here. I think there's a camera actually down here, and this is where he was seen. He goes from this area directly to the house because he's here at 329. He's passing this intersection here at 328, and he's in front of the house for the first time at 329. So he took a direct shot from this neighborhood to that direction. Why? If he was coming from Pullman, he would have been coming from over here. If he came from Pullman, I would have assumed that he would have at least passed by once to check out the house and then passed by continually until he built enough confidence to commit the crime, which is kind of what he did. He passed by a total of 4 times, and then he finally stopped. And so my question is, why is he coming from here? What is over here that he would be driving in this direction? That's my one concern. Now, I know I see a lot of Brent Kopaka in the live chat. However, he doesn't live over here. He lives out over here. And so who lives over here? That's my question. That would get him to drive through this neighborhood. It's a huge question mark for me. It's a huge question mark. What do you guys think? We'll start off with you, Jaime. Do you think he was just cruising around, or do you think there's a reason for him to be in this neighborhood?
I feel like he was hyping himself up, getting into that mindset, just driving around, maybe. But that's what I think. I mean, that's my opinion. It could be that he was maybe even picking up a weapon, he stashed it there.
Mm-hmm.
Stashed it somewhere around there, picked it up, and then went on to that residence.
Maybe he did need to go pick up something.
Yeah.
He did commit a pretty crazy, if this was his first time committing this type of offense, right? We don't know that he's committed this before, right? But let's just say this was. Maybe perhaps he was picking up something to get him over the edge or over the hump. Because he doesn't pass by the house first. Mm-mm. He goes to this neighborhood, and there's some time missing because if the vehicle that he is seeing over here at 240, was it 244? He's seen over here. I think his phone goes off at 247. And he's not over here until 326. So that's like 40 something minutes. It's not that far of a drive that it would take him 40 something minutes to get to. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or 35 minutes, whatever it is. I don't know. I think it's pretty crazy. It's like 40 minutes that it took him to get, take a 15-minute drive. So he was doing something. But we are over the 1 hour mark, guys. We usually try to limit these to about an hour, hour and a half. Do y'all have any final words before we let everybody go? I want to say thank you to everybody that called too. Jaime, we'll start off with you.
Yeah, man, I just want to say thanks to everybody that's watching, to everybody that's commenting. I like that we have this community that can keep it civil, and and hear everybody's opinion and different perspectives.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. What about you, Big Blue? You got any last words?
Well, I just want to say, everybody, thank you for coming to listen to us today. Y'all be safe out there. It's cold. Some places are icy. Here in Texas, up north is also icy and snowy. Y'all be safe out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, please be safe, and we'll be back on Friday with Publicly Buzzed. We'll probably go on for about an hour and a half to 2 hours with those guys. We'll be consuming a little bit of alcoholic beverages. So, well, if you're willing to call real quick, we'll take one more. We'll give you 2 minutes to call in.
The encore.
The encore. But we'll be coming on for a little bit longer on Friday, and then again next week we have Criming Shame on Monday, and then we have Murder Sheet on Wednesday. We have a lot of questions for both of those creators. Criming Shame has, like I said before, they have a profiler and a handwriting expert, and so we have a lot of questions for them referencing that in both of these cases, Idaho and Delphi. And with Murder Sheet, we're going to be highly talking the Delphi case, Richard Allen, and the Kleins. Look forward to that. I wanted to
clarify one thing I saw on there. Somebody said, "Where's my Cheeto Puff?" This is a peach, guys.
It's a peach?
Yeah.
He is the guy. Peaches and cream, y'all. Peaches and cream.
Yeah.
We didn't get that phone call, so it didn't happen tonight. We'll be taking calls probably next week. Anything else, guys?
No, man. I'm just eager to get new guests in here and being guests on the other show. That'll be fun.
Yeah, me too. Well, guys, y'all have a great night. Y'all be safe. I'll leave you guys with this.
Y'all take care.
Peace.